Are you having trouble understanding preposition di and preposition a in Italian? I know, the prepositions are just terrible. I hate them myself, so I know the struggle. In this video, I want to give you a list of verbs that use these prepositions, and I want to give you some helpful hints that can be useful to remember them and use them correctly. So stay tuned. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video. It's going to be a long video. I'm giving you lots of information here. And remember that you can download the PDF of the lesson if you need to follow along and take notes with me. Some Italian verbs need to have a specific preposition after them in order to make sense in a specific context. This isn't let's say, the normal rule, meaning usually verbs do not need to be followed by a preposition. So this is like a little exception to the Italian language, one of those beautiful little exceptions that you need to learn. Since there are quite a few of these, I suggest to learn them as you meet them in your Italian language journey. Don't rush, don't try to memorize them all at once. Just pick them up little by little and you will master them in no time. Just remember that some very common Italian verbs are followed by preposition a or preposition di and an infinitive verb. Let's look at these two verbs. Iniziare a fare qualcosa. Finire di fare qualcosa. Iniziare a means to start doing something. Finire di means to finish doing something. As you can see, you have iniziare plus a preposition, iniziare a, and then you have a verb in the infinitive form. Iniziare a fare. Fare is your verb in the infinitive form. Same thing with finire. Finire di fare. Finire plus di, which is the preposition, plus fare, which is the verb in the infinitive form. I'm going to be giving you some lists of verbs that have these, let's say, collocations, these verbs plus prepositions, okay? If you need to, you can download the full list by clicking on the link that you find below. It's a free link, okay? I'm not going to send you spam or anything. You can just click on it, subscribe to my newsletter, and you will be receiving all of the free materials for free in your inbox, okay? If you don't want to receive them anymore, unsubscribe. We will still be friends, trust me. Okay, let's look at the verbs that are followed by preposition a plus an infinitive. It's a long list. Okay, hang in there. I will say the verb plus the preposition. I will put it into a sentence for you. What I suggest is that you make those sentences yours, okay? As an exercise, take them and create a sentence that makes sense for you. Try to use it in a context that you are familiar with. In this way, you will most likely use the sentence and use the verb with the correct preposition. Provare a. This means to try to do something. Ho provato a chiamare Susanna, ma non risponde. Incoraggiare a. This means to encourage somebody to do something. Ho incoraggiato mia figlia a leggere. Aiutare a. This means to help to do something. Aiuto Luigi a comprare una nuova bici. As you can see in the examples, I'm always placing the verb plus the preposition plus a verb in the infinitive form. Sbrigarsi a. This means to hurry to do something. Sbrigati a fare la doccia, così usciamo subito. Mettersi a. This means to start to do something. Mi metto a studiare subito dopo la scuola. Riuscire a. This means to manage to do something, to be able to do something. Non riesco a giocare a calcio perché mi fa male la caviglia. Abituarsi a. This means to get used to doing something. Mi devo abituare a usare gli occhiali da vista. Convincere a. This means to persuade, to convince a person to do something. Mia sorella mi ha convinto a tagliare I capelli. Imparare a. This means to learn something. Ho imparato a suonare la chitarra a 8 anni. Cominciare a. This means to begin to do something. Ho cominciato a mangiare sano. Iniziare a, which we have seen in the first example. This has a very similar meaning to cominciare because it means to start, to begin to do something. Luca ha iniziato a leggere a soli 3 anni. Continuare a means to continue to do something. Continuo a pensare a Maria. Andare a. This means to go do something. For example, andiamo a ballare sabato sera. This was your list with preposition a. If you like this video so far, give it a thumbs up and we will continue with preposition di. As I did with preposition a, I will give you a full list with an example, but please, please, please make your own examples and write them in the comments or send me an email and I will check them for you. I want you to understand them. Make it yours and you will keep it forever. You will understand it and use it. Okay? Here we go. Smettere di. This means to stop, to finish doing something. Ho smesso di fumare. Finire di. This is very similar to the ones that we just saw. It also means to finish, to stop doing. Ho finito di lavorare, sono in vacanza. Cercare di. This means to try to find something. Non cercare di trovare scuse. Pensare di. This means to think about doing something. Pensiamo di andare in discoteca dopo cena. Immaginare di. Imagine doing something or being in a place like a beach, just like in this example. Immagina di essere su una spiaggia. Ricordare or ricordarsi di. So in this case you also have the reflexive ricordarsi, and it means to remember to do something. Ricordati di andare a prendere I bambini alle 4. Sperare di. This means to hope for. Spero di superare l'esame. Chiedere di. This means to ask a person for something. Ho chiesto di portare il gelato. Dimenticare, dimenticarsi di. This means to forget something. Also in this case, you can also have the reflexive dimenticarsi. Mi sono dimenticata di chiamare Lucia. Proporre di. This means to suggest, to propose to do something. Ho proposto di andare al cinema. Consigliare di. In this case, it's also like a suggestion or a recommendation. So like somebody is telling you to do something because they have an experience of it. For example, Gianni consiglia di vedere il nuovo film comico. Scegliere di, it means to choose to do something. Maria ha scelto di studiare in Inghilterra. Decidere di. It means to decide to do something. Ho deciso di perdere peso. Okay, here is a super important thing that you must absolutely take note of. We only use these prepositions when the verb is followed by another verb. So you have the formula verb, preposition, plus infinitive verb, okay? This is why I said at the beginning that most of the time we don't usually have a preposition after the verb, because in many cases the verbs are followed by nouns and not by other verbs. Okay, so let's look at the verb iniziare and finire, and let's look at them with and without the preposition. If I say, ho iniziato un corso di giapponese. Let's analyze this sentence. You have your verb iniziare, conjugated, ho iniziato, and then right after you don't have a verb, but you have a noun because you have un corso, a course, okay? So in this case, you don't need a preposition. Ho iniziato un corso di giapponese. On the other hand, if you say ho iniziato a correre, so you don't have a noun after the verb, but you have a verb, in this case an infinitive verb, then you need the preposition ho iniziato a correre. Correre is your infinitive verb, and your iniziare needs to have preposition a. Ho iniziato a correre. Same exact thing with the verb finire. When finire is followed by a noun, you don't need a preposition. Ho finito I compiti. Finito is your verb. I compiti means your homework. So you have a noun. In this case, you don't need a preposition. Ho finito I compiti. If, on the other hand, after finire you had a verb, you needed the preposition. Ho finito di fare I compiti. This sentence is exactly like the same one that we saw before. Ho finito di fare. The only difference is that after the verb you have preposition di and then you have an infinitive form, fare. You are stressing out that you're actually doing or you have finished doing your work, your homework, okay? So remember, when you have a verb that is followed by a noun, you don't need a preposition. When you have a verb that is followed by another verb, you need the preposition. One last thing that you absolutely need to remember is that you will be using a preposition after the verbs only if the verbs inside of the sentence have the same subject. Let's look at this example. Penso di poter correre una maratona. The subject here is always the first person. I think I can run a marathon. The subject is the same for both verbs. If, on the other hand, the verbs had two different subjects, you didn't need the preposition and you could keep the formula, the verb plus che plus the conjugated verb. Let's look at this example. Penso che Paolo possa correre una maratona. In this case, you have two different subjects because you're saying, I think that Paolo can run a marathon. In this case, the two subjects don't match, okay? Because you have I think, so first person, and then you're switching to Paolo, to the third person, okay? So the two verbs have different subjects. When the two verbs have different subjects, you do not use the preposition, but you're using a new type of formula. Verb plus che plus the conjugated verb that follows. All right? Okay. I know that I gave you a lot of information. Remember that there's a PDF with all this that you can download and you can keep with you and you can review whenever you want, whenever you can. Okay? Rewatch the video if you need to and get in touch with me if you are not sure about a specific thing that I have said or if you need further information on anything. All right? I will give you a big kiss, un bacio, and see you next time. Bye bye. Ciao.